Join the community, guys. Subscribe to this channel if you're new to the channel, and thumbs this video up if you enjoyed it. So I'm seeing like reports that they're saying online that Anthony Joshua could be facing Jarrell Big Baby Miller in Madison Square Garden on June 1st, right? And that's a very possibility for AJ to make his United States debut against Jarrell Miller at the Garden. Now, the fact that Dillian Whyte is thinking about leaving Eddie Hearn and joining, possibly a PBC, or maybe even joining with, maybe he takes Frank Warren's offer and joins him. The fact that he's, thinking about doing that lets me know that this is a very possibility, right? This could very well happen. Because if Dillian Whyte, because Dillian Whyte has always been the front runner to face Anthony Joshua, right? On April 13th. He was always the guy that, at least it seemed to me, right, on the outside, it looked like Eddie Hearn really wanted to put him in there against Joshua, right? Because that would be like the only guy who could sell out a arena, a stadium like Wembley. Put him in there against Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury, or Deontay Wilder. But the guy who looked like it was most likely going to be was Dillian Whyte. But if Dillian Whyte decides not to sign or re-sign with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Promotions, and he decides to go elsewhere, then Eddie Hearn is probably not going to make that rematch happen, because it's going to be like, okay, well, it might make it more difficult for Eddie Hearn to make the rematch, because let's say he goes with Frank Warren. Eddie Hearn doesn't do, it's like he doesn't like doing business with Frank Warren, so that fight might not happen next. So this fight might happen, the Wembley fight might be scrapped up for a later date, probably September. And he might go and fight Jarrell Miller. Now, I've seen some people say that Jarrell Miller, they don't really feel that he deserves to fight Anthony Joshua. And I understand he fought two bums in his last fight. But Jarrell Miller is still, in my, I told you guys, I'm a fan of Jarrell Miller. I think he's a talent. I think if anyone fights Jarrell Miller, I'll give them credit for that, because I think he's actually a talent. I think if he just got himself in shape, he could be a big problem, right? Jarrell Miller's undefeated. He's a pressure fighter. He's a guy he's entertaining. Jarrell Miller, he's never been in a boring fight because he comes to fight. He doesn't try to outbox guys. He doesn't try to play it safe. He's a seek and destroy type of fighter. He comes to fight, and I think his style versus Anthony Joshua's style is a good matchup, because somebody is going to get knocked out. I feel like somebody's going to get knocked out in that fight, just because their styles are going to collide, right? So I have no problem if Jarrell Miller fought Anthony Joshua. I have no problem, because at least he's undefeated. At least he's a guy. I've been following Jarrell Miller for years. I know who he is. He's not a big name when it comes to like international boxing fans. I get it. But I'm a hardcore boxing fan. He comes from Brooklyn. I know who he is. I know what type of fighter he is. Right? I've studied Jarrell Miller's boxing style. I am a fan of Jarrell Miller. Right? That's an exciting fight in terms of styles. In terms of name, no. He's not a big draw, Jarrell Miller. He's not internationally known. Obviously, people don't know Jarrell Miller like that. But I just think in terms of styles, I think he's a good style for Anthony Joshua. Just because I think somebody's going to get knocked out. I think that's a tough fight, to be honest with you. I don't think that's an easy fight for Anthony Joshua. I think that's a tough fight. But, again, if he faces Jarrell Miller, I don't think it's a bad fight. And, again, you can't really blame him, because Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, they're going to fight. So he can't, these guys are out of the equation. He can't fight these guys unless Tyson Fury does a 360 and out of nowhere accepts the fight offer that Eddie Hearn gave him, the 60-40 split, and faces him and faces Anthony Joshua. Then, yeah, he'll fight him at Wembley. But let's say that doesn't happen. Let's say he decides to, go and wait for the purse bid and wait and actually fight Deontay Wilder for the rematch. Then those two guys are out of the equation. Who else is Anthony Joshua going to fight? If Dillian Whyte signs with Frank Warren or PBC, and now they have a tough time getting that fight made, now Dillian Whyte's out of the equation. So who else is going to be an opponent for Anthony Joshua? Jarrell Miller. There's no other big names out there, or names that you that could be basically respectable opponents. I think Jarrell Miller is a respectable opponent for Anthony Joshua. That's just my personal opinion. I know some people don't rate Jarrell Miller, but I think he's an underrated fighter. I like his trash talking. He'll build the fight up because he'll talk a lot of trash. I don't know that I think that's a tough fight for both of these guys. Just because their styles, I study styles, and I think Jarrell Big Baby Miller styles could give Anthony Joshua problems. But at the same time, I also think Anthony Joshua's style could give Jarrell Big Baby Miller problems because Jarrell Miller comes forward, and when you come forward against Anthony Joshua, you're open to getting countered, and Joshua's a big puncher, so I'm just very curious to see how Jarrell Miller, because Jarrell Miller has never fought a puncher. I'm interested to see how Jarrell Miller, Big Baby Miller, reacts to getting hit flush with Anthony Joshua's shots. And I'm also interested to see how Anthony Joshua reacts to having a guy in his face the entire fight. A guy giving him pressure, pushing him back, being physical with him. That's something I'm curious about. That's what as a boxing fan, that's what makes me excited to see how he reacts to that. Because Jarrell Miller is a good inside fighter, so I think it's a good style. Again, I'm not going to be mad. I would obviously rather see Joshua AJ up in there against Dillian White, Deontay Wilder. But I'm not going to be mad at Jarrell Miller because, like I said, he would have eventually had to fight Jarrell Miller. Let's say Anthony Joshua would have fought Deontay Wilder this April. And let's say he would have beaten Deontay Wilder and become undisputed. Then let's say he would have fought Dillian White in September. Then guess what? By the time it was April 2020, at that point, let's say Jarrell Miller was still unbeaten. At that point, he would have had to face Jarrell Miller because Jarrell Miller would have earned a mandatory position. So this is a guy that Anthony Joshua, because he's a champion, because he has mandatory obligations, he would have eventually have to defend his belt against. So this is why, like I said, maybe a year from now, had Deontay Wilder not duck him, and had Dillian White not outprice himself, and had Tyson Fury not outprice himself, and would have fought AJ, you see? So that's why I'm not really mad at this fight. How do you guys feel about this? I mean, are you guys happy? Would you guys be excited if this fight takes place? It will be Anthony Joshua's first fight in the United States, which is pretty cool because Madison Square Garden is right here, right down the block from me. So it's pretty cool if he goes over here and faces Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller will definitely have the hometown advantage. Miller's from Brooklyn, so they're going to be rooting for Jarrell Miller. But that would be interesting. Like I said, I think it's actually a more competitive fight than people might actually believe it is. Do you guys think like me? Do you guys think it's competitive? Do you guys think that this is a better fight than people give? I think Jarrell Miller's underrated. So I said a lot of people snub Jarrell Miller like he's not really good, but I think he's underrated. Honestly, his biggest problem as a fighter, in my opinion, is the fact that he's out of shape. Like he comes in at 315 pounds. Like, dude, you need to be coming in at 275 maximum. I think that's his issues. I think that's his only issue as a fighter. Because I think he's a good inside fighter, right? And like I said, if you actually compare some of his performances against the same guys that Deontay Wilder fought, he's actually done better jobs against some of the same opponents that Deontay Wilder has fought. Like, he beaten them way more convincingly. You know what I'm saying? These are just facts in my opinion. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think this is a good fight? If it does get made, this is a very high possibility. Remember, Jarrell Miller is signed with DAZN. I believe he has some type of deal with Eddie Hearn as well. Well, Eddie Hearn has a deal with like DAZN, and Jarrell Miller's a part of that. So obviously he works with Eddie Hearn, Jarrell Miller, and this will be great just because put him in there in a competitive fight. But it would actually be a damn shame if Jarrell Miller actually got to fight Anthony Joshua because once again another fighter that surpasses Mr. Deontay Wilder and gets a fight with a fighter that Deontay Wilder should have fought. Deontay Wilder should have fought Anthony Joshua first. And funny enough, 2 years ago, Jarrell Big Baby Miller went on to Instagram and said, "Watch me fight Anthony Joshua first, then Deontay Wilder, because Deontay Wilder is going to duck Anthony Joshua." So if he actually ends up fighting Anthony Joshua June 1st of this year, then his prediction would have come true. Because he said 2 years ago on Instagram he posted a post on Instagram saying, "Hey, watch me fight Anthony Joshua first because Deontay Wilder is a ducker and he'll duck him." So that would be a damn shame if he actually ends up fighting him first, because he predicted that 2 years ago and it ended up becoming true. Anyway, guys, so I have to say, thumbs up the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're new to the channel, guys. I make videos every day. Most consistent boxing channel on YouTube. Bye-bye.